Hi, in this video I would like to share with you what I believe to be the therapeutic value of a hydrogen peroxide and Epsom salt bath. When our bodies absorb anything, good or bad, through our skin, we call it transdermal. Trans meaning across and dermal meaning skin. So our skin is a wonderfully unappreciated delivery system, and we can apply that with a bath through our skin. Now the same principle that we apply to the bath can be applied to soaking our feet. Any kind of foot or nail fungus hydrogen peroxide is a wonderful soak. For a diabetic foot problem, hydrogen peroxide is a wonderful foot soak. If someone does not have a tub and you soak your feet, you can still get a wonderful benefit of hydrogen peroxide and Epsom salt. If you can't get into a tub because, let's say, maybe you've had surgery or you're elderly and you can't get in a tub, you can still have the benefit of hydrogen peroxide by soaking your feet. If you've had surgery and you can't get into the bathtub, or if you have a fever and you can't get into a hot bathtub, a child, you can still soak your feet and have the benefit of that surge of oxygen from the hydrogen peroxide and the magnesium from the Epsom salt bath. It's a wonderful way to feel better and also to fight an infection just by soaking one's feet. I would like to call to mind the healing waters at Lourdes, France, and the high concentrations of hydrogen peroxide that they contain, and the work that a Catholic priest, Father Richard Wilhelm, did when he studied these miraculous waters. This healing modality of hydrogen peroxide. I discussed that in my video on Introduction to Hydrogen Peroxide. Sadly, for Father Wilhelm, even though there was great therapeutic value and promise in hydrogen peroxide, there was no money to be made. Therefore, there was no interest. There was no commercial value. No drug company can patent hydrogen peroxide. So what they can't profit by, they demonize. There may be no commercial value for drug companies, but there is much therapeutic value. 3 months ago, I had an accident at work. I ran into a concrete pillar. Bam! It was a total G-force. I was stunned. My co-workers were stunned. They wanted to laugh, but we were all waiting to see if I was hurt. I couldn't believe it. I hit here, my ear, my arm. I thought, my goodness, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank goodness I hit my ear and not my forehead, because I was sure I would have had a concussion or a brain bleed. So I really and truly thought I had dodged a bullet. I was thankful. But 3 days later, it was evident, it was obvious I had injured myself. The G-force went from the left side of my body to the right like a car accident. Everything was sore. My neck, my shoulders, my arms, my back. It was one big internal sore. I didn't know if I had a bruise. I didn't know if I had a bone bruise. I didn't know if I had internal bleeding. I didn't know if I had cracked something. My arm, I had to isolate. Providentially, with great luck, I thought I had 6 weeks off already from work. So I thought, great, I can rest and recover. What timing? But no, when it was time for me to go back to work, I was still very much in pain. So 9 weeks in after my accident, I filed an accident report at work in case I needed to have some tests run. I feared that I might have a hairline fracture or maybe even a muscle tear. Well, 12 weeks in, it dawned on me, you need to get into the bathtub. So I did. I took 2 bottles of hydrogen peroxide over the counter, 2 full bottles, 4 cups of plain Epsom salt, and I soaked for 20 minutes. I like to get a washcloth and soak that washcloth, apply it, let it sit there, get all the places that, if I'm not completely immersed in the water. And I was greatly improved. So improved that I thought, I've got to get back in the bathtub. So 2 more baths later, I was greatly, greatly improved. There's little residual pain left. I am favoring this arm a little bit, but at the time I thought it would be 6 to 12 months before I would know what was wrong with me. That is how injured I felt. In hindsight, if I would have been on my game, I would have gotten into that tub as soon as I realized I had injured myself, which was 3 days after that accident. I could have spared myself 12 weeks of unnecessary suffering. My point is, never rule out or underestimate the healing modality of a bath. I have a friend at work who has a lot of health issues, and I told her about hydrogen peroxide. She went out and bought her 5 bottles. She has a large bathtub. She put all 5 bottles in that bathtub, and she came back to work singing the praises of hydrogen peroxide. She felt so good. And another friend at work had an injury at work, and her knee was very swollen. I told her, go home, get a washcloth, douse it liberally, apply some pressure to that knee, and sure enough, it worked. She was back at work, no problems. Bumps, bruises, burns, you get that washcloth, you liberally apply that hydrogen peroxide. Apply a little pressure, do that a couple of times, and by the day's end, it's as if your injury never happened. Great results, miraculous results. I've used this for burns from the iron or from the oven. Now, I'm not talking about emergencies. I'm talking about our everyday bumps, bruises, and burns. By day's end, they're practically gone, I believe. What ails you? What ails you? Are you suffering from headaches? My daughter was pregnant, and at the beginning of her pregnancy, she was suffering from headaches. I had to convince her it was probably a deficiency. We're all deficient. I didn't want her relying on over-the-counter medications her entire pregnancy. So she got in her Epsom salt baths, and she also used magnesium oil spray, which is also a wonderful way transdermally to get magnesium. And sure enough, her headaches went away. We're all deficient. So she started out deficient, and she was pregnant with twins. So they were really sucking her dry of her magnesium. Now, it's very important to add this. It was only magnesium. It was only the Epsom salts because she was pregnant. No hydrogen peroxide when you're pregnant, because when you're pregnant, you have to be careful with everything. I would like to say a word about Epsom salts. You have to be very careful to avoid anything fragranced. This is deceptive advertising. The label says essential oils, but they are minuscule. They're really toxic chemicals, and these toxic chemicals create a toxic bath. It really makes it a negative instead of a positive. So always just use plain Epsom salts. Now, and if you're pregnant and you soak in an Epsom salt bath, you also deliver that wonderful magnesium to your developing fetus. What a blessing that would be. And you should see my daughter's babies. She soaked practically every day during her pregnancy in a magnesium Epsom salt bath. But if you're recovering from childbirth, yes, hydrogen peroxide, oxygen, magnesium, absolutely. That can help speed your recovery. That can help replenish and revitalize what your body lost in the work of giving birth and in nursing your newborn baby. So what ails you? Are you going through chemo? Are you suffering with yeast infections? Do you have skin conditions? Do you have an autoimmune disease? Are you suffering from old age? Do you have a heart condition? Magnesium is wonderful for the heart. It's called it's called what? The miracle mineral. Magnesium. Do you have a heart condition? Magnesium is wonderful for your heart. It's called the miracle mineral for a reason. Sore muscles, exertion, are you an athlete? Whatever it is, consider the powerhouse of a therapeutic bath or a foot soak. And for your children too, throw out the toxic fragrance bubble bath. Your children need magnesium too. Make it a go-to for healing, for general well-being. Make time for yourself. Make time for someone you love. Make time to be well.